All right, good morning. So I am Jon Dodart. I am the attorney from Solar Legal, nicknamed the lawyer for solar. I have an amazing guest, the one, the only, Jake Hess. I need an audience here to clap with me here. So, Jake, good morning. How are you, my guy?
Killing it. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I wish I clearly see like a cabin in the background. It looks like.
Yeah, I'm taking a little break. I went to Sundance, Utah. It's one of my favorite places in the world to just get away and get work done.
I love that. I'm always saying that an attorney needs to be on every vacation. So I'm highly disappointed that you didn't call legal counsel, to advise you on the slopes. Any kind
The
of.
one time, the one time I don't invite you, I invite this guy 100 times to go places, and he always has excuses like kids. I mean,
Work.
work.
My life goal, Jake, is to be half as successful, a third as charismatic, and like a fractionally as smart as you. That's just my life goal, so that one day I can be at the cabin in Sundance, providing
Relax.
anything other than legal advice. So, well,
Whatever.
thanks for being here with us on the launch of our podcast. As you know, we started
Yeah.
Solar Legal recently, and we're a law firm that's focusing on everything in the solar industry, everything from small businesses to large businesses. Handling everything from employment matters and contracts to big stuff, advisements, regulatory issues, things like that, mergers, acquisitions. And I can't think of anybody better for our launch of the podcast than you. I mean, I've known you. I was trying to think about this yesterday. I've known you for what, like 15
Yeah.
years,
How
20
long has
years,
that
something like
been?
that? A
So,
long time.
20, long time. Yeah.
I
You
think.
knew me when I had hair.
So, I mean, since you were a baby, basically,
It's
is
been a while.
it makes your aerodynamics. You're aerodynamic on the slopes, Jake. That's what that is. you're
I'll
you're
take that.
faster when you're surfing. So yeah, I was thinking about really both somebody who's given me a lot of opportunities in this industry, but also somebody who has taught me probably more than anyone else, even in my legal career. In fact, I've probably obtained more of a legal education in representing you on things than a lot of what I learned in contracts class.
Hold on. That sounds bad. You guys, I do
Oh.
good business. It's the other people. They don't. Let's drop it. Next.
Well, that's a very fair comment, actually. And
Just
speaking as the
kidding.
person who has drafted most of your contracts, I would agree. You do good business. They're fair contracts. It's down the road when people think that they can pull one over on you, that they realize that they shouldn't and they can't. So, well, let me ask that, Jake. So you've had a lot of businesses. I obviously haven't always been an attorney to you. We've been friends forever, but I wasn't an attorney forever. So tell me a little bit about your businesses, what you've experienced as far as legal issues that you've come across with your businesses.
Oh man. Oh man. I can't even begin to describe the roller coaster that I've been on with legal matters. I one of the first lessons that I learned actually with you. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a company where we drafted up a contract. Everything was settled and done. They literally handed me a check saying, "Hey, this will consider this check." I forgot the verbiage they used. Consider this check closure between the business of us together, and we're doing a clean separation. However you word that legally.
Yeah,
And I
full
thought,
and
great.
final.
Yeah. 2 years later, this guy claims bankruptcy, and in his computer, in his accounting, it showed there was an error. It showed that I owed him money. Um, do you remember this? And I kept
I
getting
do.
calls from attorneys, and I was like, this scam artist. And then it ended up being real because I'm not used to it. And I'm like, John, I need you. Uh, I didn't know what to do, and John's like, I got it. Just give me the guy's number. And John took over from there. You took over from there, and you just kept giving me updates over the next few days. But basically, it boiled down to I was correct. He was wrong. I had the contract. We had the check stub. We have the proof. And they still continued and pushed us to litigation. Or they said, "Oh, okay, cool. I see the contract. I see that you're gonna win. So we'll settle for $15,000." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And you were like, "Dude, it's classic court
Yeah.
case. They know it's 20 grand to go to litigation, so they'll settle for 15." And your famous quote to me, and I use this all the time, was, "Do you want the financial victory or do you want the moral victory?" And back
Yep.
then, I wanted the moral victory. I wanted the financial victory. I wanted to be like, "Fine, I'll pay the 15 grand," which I did. But now today, man, if I could make that decision again, I'd like, take them. Let's go to court.
Well,
I
you know,
don't
it's
care
so
what
good.
it costs me.
It's so funny that you say that. And that is one thing that I've really had to do with you because, in all of your contracts, things like that, you will always like do it right. In fact, a lot of times you sacrifice things that I advise you not to. And because, you want everyone to be successful and you don't
I
care
want
if you take
everyone
a
to
hit.
win.
Exactly. And honestly, as an attorney, I mean, that's really what we focus on as well with our clients is really fair agreements, really fair situations, win-win outcomes, which a lot of attorneys don't believe in, but we strongly believe in that, especially in a tight-knit industry like solar. But yeah, I mean, I do remember many of the times of advising you, Jake, you can be right. We can do that. Or you can help put my kids through college. Like it's up to you, Jake. And thank you so much, by the way.
Happy to
We're
do that.
investing for Harvard immediately. So, no, I do remember that, and it's so funny how often this occurs in solar. How frequently that
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
get somebody who says, "Well, yeah, we get that you're right, but we're gonna fleece you for some money anyways." I found this so shocking. It's one of the rare industries that I find that there's a lot of kind of bottom feeder sharks that they're just looking for opportunities to take these cases on contingency, meaning that they don't even get paid unless they get money from the other guy. And yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they were doing to you. So
That was a
I'm
hard
glad that we could
lesson.
do that.
That was a hard lesson for me. Yeah. It was a hard lesson for me because that 15 grand at that time, that was my first company. That was a hard lesson for me because 15 grand meant a lot to me at that time. I actually think I only had literally 20 grand in the account. And when I had to pay that out, it stressed me out. It wasn't fun to deal with. And I guess not to give you a plug here, I mean, I want to, but I guess I was happy. It felt great knowing that I had my profession and I could stick in my lane and that I had someone that I really trusted that had my best interest at heart because we've been friends for so long, that could just be an assassin and just handle it for me. I mean, it's a CEO's dream, right? To not worry about these problems as they come at you and to know that you have someone trusted that can just handle it for you. It's Steve Jobs' quote, actually, that says, I'm going to butcher it. I use it all the time. I hire smart people so they can tell me what to do. We don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. And man, that has transformed my life. It's transformed my businesses. And the fact that I have an attorney that knows how to handle things, it's a big stress reliever.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that we really like, and especially myself in practice that I've seen is we're selective on what clients that we take. We don't just take every case. We don't just take every client. Because at the end of the day, I want to work with people that I like so that when I go to bat for them, I'm fighting like they're my buddy that I've, been to Vegas with and swam in the pool with and, drink strawberry daiquiris at Caesars underneath the fountain and talked an hour about, the multiverse. And for those that don't understand my reference, I did invite Jake out to Las Vegas for a business meeting, and we had a strong financial discussion and legal discussion while drinking strawberry daiquiris in the fountains of Caesar's Palace.
For like 5 minutes.
It was
Just
it
kidding.
was 5
It was
minutes.
longer than that.
I can't disclose.
But it was a good
how
time.
long. No, but you make a great point. Like we take the clients that we want to take because we believe in them, we believe in their businesses, and so when people want to bully our clients, like it doesn't work for me. And that's one thing I love representing you on in your businesses on is I just know when we come into an argument, they can say whatever they want, they can demand whatever they want, but I know that your contracts have been drafted fairly, you've negotiated fairly, and yeah, like I'm happy to go to town to, if we have to depose an entire company or whomever else to get you the outcome that you need, we'll go to bat because I know the type of client that you are and the person that you are. And so it's nice for us as business owners and as a law firm to do that. But I do distinctly remember that case and how when we talked about like financially what it's like in these types of litigation, how some attorneys will come to fleece a company or you get owed money and you're like, hey, they owe me, they should pay me. And really just kind of seeing the legal need as you've evolved and developed and really it just exploded has been amazing. We've adapted with you, but it's been amazing to see the types of legal needs that you've had along the way. Is there anything that's really surprised you of where you've needed an attorney, but you didn't think that you were going to?
Yeah, there's definitely some surprising. Obviously, things get thrown at you randomly in business. If you're in business long enough, stuff will be thrown at you. But something less obvious kind of surprised me. When I started Helio Gold, I had people that I was working with, and I brought them on, and I set expectations. We wrote out steps or terms on a blank piece of paper and signed it so that we could refer back to it and stuff. But as I scaled up and started these other companies and even started getting more serious in Helio Gold, it was surprising to me how easy, how do I word this? It was surprising to me how easy I could onboard people with confidence, not just for myself, for them. It was actually easier to recruit. It was easier to hire people. It was easier to navigate conversations after I had talked with you and said, hey, Jon, I'm going to hire for this position. What advice do you have? So that when I'm interviewing him and I'm creating the deal, I don't step on my foot later on down the road. And just being able to call you and have you draft the agreements and kind of have an hour consultation with me about what I'm hoping for, what my dreams are with them. And even, here's the best part, even things that I want to like potentially squeeze out of the employee. Like I want the most I can get out of the employee. Everyone does. You even put limitations on, like, I want to hear them. I want you to tell me that, but also I'm going to guide you on how far you can go. And then I'm going to put that in the contract. And that way, when I was interviewing or I was onboarding them, I knew how I should perform as a business owner. I knew it was safe, and I knew the parameters and boundaries I could operate in. It's beautiful. It's great. It protects me because employees, if they get frustrated or disgruntled, we live in a world where business owners have literally zero protection from anyone. Everyone is out to get us. Anywhere between sales reps, employees. I even had the state of California audit me for employment agreements. I've had people try to steal my conference. You've done trademark work for me, and it's just, everything you've done is just incredible.
Well, thank you. And it's the thing that I've liked the most in working with your businesses and your brands is that you share the same beliefs that we share as attorneys, that my firm shares, which is it's about ethical practice, right? So we'll structure these agreements so that it's very fair to your business, that it protects your business and it creates the opportunity for growth. But the cool thing is that in all of your agreements that you've done, you create opportunity for growth for the sales guy, for your employees, for your staff, for your secretaries. You create ethical opportunities for growth all around. And that's how you make a business successful. And that's how you get really loyal employees. Is they see that you're not this guy who pulled a template off of, the internet and you Googled some employment thing and said, how do I get the best deal for my company? You created it with an attorney and you shared and expressed your goals for your staff, your sales guys, everything, to build these really ethical opportunities for success, for everyone's success, which I've just really loved. And the reason why also I love that, and you'll know, I say this to you all the time, Jake, you don't have to be right to get sued by somebody. You don't have to be right to file a lawsuit. Anyone can file a lawsuit. And the worst part is that you as the business owner then have to spend the money to defend it. But where you have an attorney that already knows your businesses, knows you, knows your contracts, it's a lot easier to resolve these frivolous disputes, with quick emails, quick phone calls. I was thinking of one time we had a disagreement with, someone that was involved with the Solar Academy. I'll never forget. It was one of these things where it was a stressful situation. You provided a lot of value, and you went above and beyond to continue to provide value, even though they clearly were not, they were not getting it. And, they decided that they wanted to breach their contract, and you reached out to me and said, hey, what do we do? Was that, I gotta ask, was that like at all stressful for you? Like having to deal with this headache?
I mean, in the solar industry, I'm a very public person. And so it was stressful because I didn't want any public blowback, and I tried to keep it as quiet as possible. But yeah, it was stressful because I didn't want it getting out. I didn't want it tainting other people's opinions or thoughts or experiences on the company that I've grinded to make. And the fact that, when I have someone like you, because you can pick attorneys, and I've worked with other ones.
I don't want to hear that, Jake. Don't ever say that to me. You don't have any other attorneys but me. How dare you? I'm the only girlfriend.
No, but attorneys, they all have personalities, and some are monotone and mundane, some are engaging, some are like bulldogs and threatening. But it's nice with you because you're personable. And so when you call them and you're empathetic, you call them and you're like, look, I'm sorry we're in this position. I'm the middle guy. I'm going to guide you guys through this because litigation's the last place you want to go. And you tend to get them to agree to favorable terms, even though their emotions are super escalated. Mine are too. It's nice to have someone that's level-headed in that process, so they don't make emotional rash decisions, which is very easy to do when you're passionate about your business and someone is attacking you.
Well, yeah. And, I always tell you, never be the bad guy, right? I'm always stressing that to you. Never be the bad guy. Always blame your attorney. And fortunately for us, what being a bad guy looks like in a lot of these situations really is just, hey, we understand that there's a dispute between you and my client. We get that. But how do we move past it?
Yep.
And, business owners are some of the best problem solvers. You're creatives. You're these like big thinkers. You create these ideas. But the problem is that sometimes business owners create these ideas and they are sprinting to get there. They're building, they're going, they're moving. And so then they get there and they realize, oh, there's some things that maybe we missed along the way from a legal standpoint. And it's been nice to be able to, be sprinting as fast as I can behind you to try to organize some of these things, or to, when something doesn't fit, to be able to say, let's move it this way, or let's jump back a second and then rebuild that and move forward that way. I've seen you create multiple companies over the years, and like when I say multiple companies, this isn't like your mom and pop shop selling lemonade on the corner or something. I mean, these are huge successful companies, and it's incredible watching you start from nothing, where you call me and you go, I got this idea. And I gotta tell you, some of my biggest regrets in life is not jumping on board and being like, just take my money, Jake. Just take it, and whatever you want to invest in this thing, just do it. But it's been amazing seeing you start from nothing and building these huge ideas. How does legal factor into what you do? Like, let me ask you this. Do you ever come to me with your ideas before you've actually fleshed it out and say, like, here's what I'm thinking?
I mean, I do now. Yeah, I do now. You know that there's one that we're working on now that potentially is larger than even SolarCon. And it just so happens that you were in the field doing it. And when I called you and chatted with you about it, and then also talked with you about it in Vegas, you had so much incredible insight that allowed me to navigate conversations differently than I would have. So yeah, I find it highly beneficial to call you beforehand. And it's like I said earlier, you give me the confines and the boundaries that I am safely going to work in, so that when I do go running, when I start dashing for that finish line that I want, I'm not dashing in the wrong direction and have to backtrack and go again. I want to get there as fast as I can because time is money.
Uh-huh.
And being able to do that in a straight line is always the most efficient and effective. So yeah, I'll call you. I'll call you every time when I have an idea.
Well, I love that. For multiple reasons. With all of our clients, but you especially, I get a lot of inspiration seeing what you're creating, and these huge ideas. I'm a business owner, but I love seeing other business owners and their passions. And when they come to me and they say, I got this idea, and they're not sure how to get like to the end, but they've got an idea. And so they come to me with this general thing, and we start figuring out the logistics of, oh, let's do this, let's license this, let's negotiate this. And we kind of set these building blocks in so that as you're building, I'm just laying bricks as you're just taking off. And and the ironic thing is that, the types of law that we practice, when I say solar law or like, in the energies field, most of the time people think it's just specific for these things. And obviously we're not going to disclose what you're doing, but, I think you could attest, we have branched out in so many interesting avenues, well beyond solar, that I think that, it's fun having an attorney who's like, yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but we're going to figure this out and we're going to be the best at it. And we're going to, just take it in and blow it up. Is there anything?
You know what? I want to talk a little. I want to talk a little bit about that because there's some frustrations working with you. I have to disclose this to the audience now.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want you to be my attorney for everything. And what I've learned, frustration that I've learned, is attorneys, they have their niches that they're good at, right? They're really like in my space. I'm good at residential solar. I am not good at commercial, so I don't touch it. And in fact, when people ask me about it, I don't pretend like I know it. I say, "Oh, go talk to this person." That's not what I'm good at. And what frustrates me is when I need you and I call you, like for family matters or like, or it could be anything. Hotel arguments. I don't know. I've never had one of those, but I'm giving examples. You say,
Yeah.
"Oh no, that's not my field, but I can refer you to somebody," and I'm like, "Just do it," and you're like, "No." It's smart. It's wise. It's wise to say that. But I do wish that you could do everything. But I understand that attorneys have to work within what they've gone to school for, what their profession is, right? And it can hurt you if you don't do that. I learned that. It can hurt me if I did use you and you've told me I'll do it, but it's not. It could hurt you because I don't know it as well. And I do appreciate the honesty on that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I always tell clients, in fact, I took this from you, Jake. I might not be the guy for what they need, but I'll know the guy, or I can find the guy that they're going to need. And I'm going to make sure that he's the best guy for that specific thing, or best firm that knows how to do whatever it is. And I because business owners are always moving a mile a minute, there's only one of me to figure that out, or to get some of these bigger, broader, weird areas of law that you drag me into and say, do you know how to do this? But we typically can find the person that you need, and we coordinate that, and then we facilitate what we do and integrate it into the next idea. So yeah, I mean, like, maybe you want to start a shoe company. That's not my practice area, but I can tell you how do we draft, business contracts. I can tell you how we do a merger and acquisition. I can tell you how we, grow it in that way. And the cool thing too about the firms, since we started talking, Jake, is I added on additional attorneys that also have specific focused practice areas that have years of experience that are good at it. So I'm a trial attorney. I like to be in court. I like to be negotiating, litigating, deposing people. I like to be that bulldog out there and, making people cry. So don't mess with my clients. That's always my saying. But
we've never been there. You always save it before we get there, which is weird because if you love being there, it's weird that you try to prohibit it from happening.
Well,
which is actually a good thing financially.
And I'm always really careful with clients because at the end of the day, it's important that, we're a business too. We got to keep the lights on, but I'm not going to do that at the best interest of my client. Like, I'd rather we do 20 other things and make up the difference than me take you to trial for the next 2 years and charge you for the other child of mine's college education. I always give the
Well,
best advice, whether you like
I
it.
think one of my favorite parts about this podcast is that just before he promised me that everything was free now. So I'm going to use you for everything.
Yeah, it's free, but like gratuities are appreciated, and gratuities are typically billed by the hour. It's something that we.
All right. I like that.
we'll, we'll,
I,
we'll figure
I
that
was,
out.
I was trying to pull one off in front of everyone, but didn't work out.
That's fine. I just like everybody to know that any discussions here, obviously, it's not legal advice. It's not legally binding. I'm supposed to give a disclaimer, Jake. Now you're tying it in, and I'm definitely not bound to anything that Jake says here.
Free consulting for everybody. Yeah.
All right, that's fair. So let me ask you this though, Jake. I always wonder this. So obviously you've built a lot of businesses. And you've mentored a lot of businesses that don't have attorneys. In fact, you've been very generous. And when you go and mentor a company, I've received phone calls from them and they say, hey, you're Jake's guy. What do we need? Why do you think companies are so opposed to talking to an attorney early or getting on legal counsel early?
Truthfully, it's an expense that we don't want to spend. It's not fun. It's not like we woke up out of bed and be like, my God, I get to call my attorney today, to draft up a 80-page contract for something we need. Like it's not why we got into the business. It's not what we're passionate about, and it's certainly not an expense that's at the forefront of our mind, because on a day-to-day basis we have other problems that pop up that we need to allocate funds to, and sometimes we get emotionally drained by life and by business. And to take on something like that, it's not exciting until the time comes where you're like, got you covered. Here it is. Boom, done, right? Yeah. And then that's exciting, but it's the old tale of putting in the work in and investing beforehand to benefit later.
So one of the things I liked when I spoke at SolarCon was how you talked about how you had like no idea really the need that you had for an attorney who was so proactive in your businesses until we started proactively doing things consistently throughout. I mean, I talk to you more than I talk to girlfriends. So, you'll shoot me a text and say, hey, what do you think about this? And I've seen definitely a dynamic shift in how you do your business. Like you've always been confident, but I now see that you come to it with a legal confidence too, which is totally different because you know that you've structured your agreements. You know that you've negotiated well. You know that you've had like a second set of eyes on things. And it's been really fun too, seeing when other people try to mess with your agreements, how we go, and how we negotiate that using your agreements with them. But yeah, that's one thing I'll never forget when I spoke at SolarCon, how you said, I didn't really know how much I need an attorney until, some of these issues like the EDD issue that we resolved that time, or, some of these other big things that came up. I'm always reminding clients that, legal fees may initially seem expensive, even though I think that we are very fair in our pricing. We have lots of different, models for services, flat rate, subscription, billable hour. We try to make it so that we grow with the company. But besides that, when you get into a legal dispute and now you're looking at $100,000 bill or a $20,000 bill or whatever it might be, how do legal fees stack up in comparison when you're looking at the opposite effects?
I mean, obviously it works in our favor to have it beforehand, but I will say, just to put this in perspective for people like myself at Helio Gold when I was first starting, just put it in perspective, we can spend money on clear written agreements that protect us, or we can spend money on a fancy dinner just to posture and post it on Instagram. One time, 1 month, like just skip that for 1 month and pay for the legal fees instead of taking out to fancy dinners to posture on Instagram. And it's funny because I think where a lot of the stress comes from on the attorney side of things as a business owner is, man, like I don't want to spend the funds on that. I don't like, should I really spend the funds on that today, or should I wait next week, or wait next month, or wait next year, right? And it's just so funny because in our industry, we spend frivolously on whining and dining salespeople, but it's actually those people that can, I'm not saying all of them do, but they can create issues for us. And so one day when you're in there taking them out to fancy dinners in Las Vegas and have camera crews and posting on Instagram, the very next year, they could be the ones frustrated with you and suing for whatever reason. And that hasn't happened to me, but I just want to put it in perspective that we do have the funds for it. And maybe Instagram isn't as important this month.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
Well, I'm always telling people too, it's like, as a business, you're going to grow and you need tax write-offs. And most of the time, I mean, obviously speak to your tax advisor, but most of the time we're a tax write-off. And so you're going to be successful throughout the year. Why not do that with greater success and greater confidence, and then use us as a tax write-off, as a business expense down the road? It boggles my mind every time that companies like, well, we couldn't afford it. And I see exactly what you do, Jake. We get into the financials, we get into things, and I'm like, well, you can't say you couldn't afford it when you're over here taking everybody to Mastro's, and everybody's got a big tomahawk steak and there's tons of wine and drinks and everything. And they're like, well, we couldn't justify a couple hours for you to review our contract. But yeah. I mean, look, we'll take a client in any case where they're at, or any status of where they're at, whether it's at the start, it's in the middle, it's at the end. We've started companies with clients. We've wound down businesses with clients. Really we prefer the middle during the growth stage or early stage, but we'll help anybody out wherever they're at. One thing that I think is kind of fun that we've done a lot of lately is trademarks. So obviously we've talked a lot about some of the trademarks that you filed, that you've owned with your businesses. And it's been interesting to see, and obviously we won't discuss it on the podcast, but how your trademark can protect you against potential liability from somebody else just coming along and stealing work or doing things to try to lock you into things. I mean, it's trademark, I think, is so overlooked for solar companies because of these big things.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Dude, yes. Oh my gosh. Like so let's just talk SolarCon, for example. I've had exactly 3 people wealthier than myself, worth billions sometimes, say, I do like it. We're going to work together. We're going to do this. And I'm like, yeah, let's work together. Okay. And because we're going to work together, I'm going to have part of the conference. Like, no. That's mine. We can work together. Let's keep that separate. Oh no, but I want a conference. Okay, make one. No, it's easy. I'll just brand everything identical to yours, and I'll promote it and advertise it with more money, and I'll make it look the same, and they'll come to my conference instead of yours. I'll just get more clicks. More people will buy my tickets. More people will. And I thought, oh my God, like they actually legally can do that, right? I mean, they can. But
yep.
now that I have a trademark, they can try. But now that I have a trademark, it's like a halt, stop. You're not allowed. Not by me, by the government. No, you can't do that. It's actually very illegal, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. These people come in with money and think that they can bully around people or whatever. Like sometimes people don't have money, but they'll just spend enough to try to mess with somebody's business in the hopes that they can disrupt it and get a settlement.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, trademarks, I mean, we're really pushing it right now with business owners, like trademark what you can. Trademark's a little bit complex. It's tricky. The government regulates what you can get a trademark on and not get a trademark on. And so it's tricky, but there's a way to navigate that successfully. And so then when these companies come along and go, well, we don't care what you're telling us, we're just going to create our own convention, then we can go, yeah, go for it. And when you do, we're going to sue you for all of the profits and proceeds from all of it. And we're going to sue you for damages, and we're going to get an injunction. And then we protect ourselves and we stop it. business owners come up with these great ideas that are incredible, and people see it and go, yeah, I want that. I'll take that. And it's been nice to be able to say, no, you won't. Like, you're not going to do that, or you're going to pay us to do that.
Yeah, there's a company I'm working with right now that did not trademark their logo. And since working with them, I've seen it. I live in San Diego. They're not there. I've traveled to them. I went back to San Diego, and at random, I saw the logo on the back of a guy's shirt because some company had that same logo and was sponsoring that shirt, whatever it was promoting. I've seen it. I've seen that same logo on many different places. And I don't know the reason for it. That's marketing that I'm not familiar with. Maybe it was Fiverr that everyone decided, and they all used similar templates. But now that I'm trying to like get it nationally recognized, it's creating issues because people are getting confused about the brand, whose it is, or if there's someone that's using that logo and maybe they don't have the same morals or convictions that you do in the industry that you work in, they begin to represent your brand and company. People will think that that person is you, just by seeing that logo, and you don't want that. You don't want that because you work really hard to build your reputation, build your business, and build the recognition. You work really hard for that, and the fact that someone can just piggyback off that with no problem is very problematic.
Yeah. Well, and I, as a trial attorney, and I've been on both plaintiff and defense, I always look at those things of, well, what happens if, somebody gets injured or somebody sues the company and then that company goes bankrupt and they go, well, we thought you guys were the same. We thought you were the same company. How would we know any different? And there's been no licensing agreement. There's been no protections put in place, no indemnification clauses. You as a business owner, like, they could still sue you, and still you could win in court, but they could still like force you into that process, potentially by not enforcing your brand and not owning it. So
That's a new one that I learned. There's a situation right now where the people running it, I'm very grateful for this and them. They're super humble, very appreciative, and very willing to work with us. And their branding looked very similar to ours, nearly identical, probably actually identical. And Jon called me up and he told me all of the problems that can create for me and my brand. And I was so unaware. And since then I've talked to them and they've actually started changing it. Just because
Awesome.
they're that type of people. You don't always need to go the legal route. You just don't. If you know what the problems are. So Jon called me up and told me here are all of the problems. I then got to go have a conversation with them to create peace between us both. Neither business needed to hire an attorney and go to war, simply because I had some few tidbits of advice, and that was beautiful.
Well, and I think that creates that win-win in the environment, that we really like, is because we don't have to file a suit or a cease and desist or anything like that. We can just say, hey, Jake, you might want to just, reach out to your friend and talk to him and say, hey, we need to put some things in place to protect each other, really. And
Right?
yeah, I mean, we're big on win-wins. I like as well, speaking of trademarks at SolarCon, the first year where I spoke, Jake was kind enough to announce me and nickname me the lawyer for solar, which I have trademarked. So thank you, Jake, for the idea. I appreciate it. I also appreciate you letting me trademark that in advance. No royalties.
10%. 10%.
Checks in the mail, I think. But we it's funny you said that, and I thought, wow, that's such a resonating sentence, the lawyer for solar. And when we discussed about like me getting more involved in the solar industry and building a firm that's really kind of focused on the solar industry, it's been so cool to see how many businesses have a need for somebody who understands baseline, solar knowledge. People don't understand that if you hire an attorney who doesn't do this, you're going to pay like 3 to 4 billable hours for him to research, what is net metering, whatever it is. He's going to spend that time. He's going to bill you. And we just come in and already have a baseline knowledge of solar that are able to specifically draft, solar agreements, contracts. We already have that information because we've been in this space long enough. So, Have you found any kind of benefit for you personally besides me not billing you all the time for extra research?
Yeah, one of the major benefits is I want everyone watching this to hire John and use him because I now get 10%. That was a big benefit for me.
Well, just to be clear,
Just
that
kidding.
is not true. And sharing legal fees is illegal, which we don't do. You
I'm
know,
just kidding.
but for you, Jake, obviously speaking on my podcast, I will allow you to take me to dinner, and buy the first round of strawberry daiquiris at Caesar's next time. So,
I believe it's my turn. I'm happy to do it. But no, sorry, all jokes aside, I have found many benefits in using John as an attorney. The fact that he understands solar now, he is right. There's billable hours, and if your attorney needs to understand conversations like price per watt, um, red lines, all of the things. Lord knows our industry needs legal help everywhere right now, and to be able to utilize someone that understands that language, the same language that we all use, I would say it's invaluable. But you can put a price tag on that, an attorney's deal.
yeah, I mean that's very fair. I mean we try to be fair in our pricing to make sure that that we're not just gouging out people so that they can't afford us. In fact, when I've spoken to clients and asked them what they've been quoted on things, I've intentionally said, let me underbill that so that you can see the type of product that we offer and so that you can understand that what we're offering is better. We'll typically
Oh,
beat most
sorry, what
attorneys'
I
pricing.
meant. Yeah, what I meant was you're going to have to pay your attorney to understand your language because they will bill you for it. But you already understand the language, so
Oh,
you've already saved all of that money because
well,
yeah,
that's true.
that's what I meant to say.
Well, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I think as well that we, like I said, we like to be very fair. One thing that we offer, which we're going to be rolling out, I think formally at SolarCon this year, but is like a subscription type model, and one that is specifically priced with businesses as far as their size. Our attitude is we want to grow with the company, as long as we can make it work, we'll do what we have to make it work for clients so that we can grow their business with them instead of against them. Whereas most attorneys only care about that bottom line. They'll tell you go to trial because they know that they're going to charge you and bill you for the next 2 years, instead of saying, we should send a letter and we could probably be done in like a couple hours. I think that's the difference.
I have a question for you. Now that it just came up, our industry is very much in need of having representation on an individual basis as well, not just businesses. By chance, do you have something coming out for that, or is that going to be round two?
Yeah. So we do have individual representation. It depends on the specific needs. So in the solar industry, as you know, a lot of the salesmen that go out, or even some of the people who work for companies, there's always this debate of, are they an independent contractor? Are they an employee? Each state has their own general guidelines for that. California has what's known as the ABC test. There's also the IRS regulations of what is an employee, what is a independent contractor. So when people are an independent contractor, and one free piece of legal advice here that I'll give on my podcast, which again, this is not legal advice, is, when these people have their own businesses independently, they set up an LLC, they set up whatever they're doing, and they run their own businesses, which is really what an individual is they are their own business, whether it's formed through an LLC or not formed. They're just doing it as a DBA. Then they should look into legal representation, or maybe they want someone to review their sales agreement, or maybe they want someone to, look at whatever their red lines or their commissions are going to be, whatever it's going to be. We're happy to look through any individual's contracts, negotiate specific situations. I always do advise as far as specific lawsuits. So for example, let's say that you are an installer and you've done 30 jobs and you've not been paid, which is a common occurrence I've seen recently in the solar industry. Depending on the specific facts of the case, we might take that case and we might try to help get you paid or file a lawsuit to get you paid. Same thing with sales guys. I've seen a lot of sales guys do a whole summer of work and not get paid. and then they come to me and they go, this guy owes me all this money. We have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. And if it's not something necessarily that we can handle, it's something definitely that we can either point you in the right direction or give you advice to do it. So an easy example is I had a call last week. It was from a salesman who was out. He made tons of sales and was owed a decent amount of money. He had a buddy who also had done some sales, but not quite made enough to really justify a lawsuit. So I advised them both a little differently. One person I said, look, this might be a case that we'll take, and we'll see if we can either obtain the money that you're owed or we'll file a lawsuit for it. But the other guy, he didn't need an attorney for it because he could file it himself through small claims. The small claims limits in the state that he was in allowed for up to basically what he was owed. And what's nice then is when that salesman then goes to file in small claims, the other business that he's going to sue has to get an attorney and defend it. Well, that costs them money. And so most of the time, it's cheaper just to pay the salesman than it is to go through the hassle and do it. Or they'll get a default judgment and he'll get paid. But we do take it on a case-by-case basis. I do try to give advice, even if we can't take the case. But no one should think that their legal circumstances are insignificant or not important, because we take every client as though they are our most important client, and we walk through their situation and figure out how to solve their problems. And I really do feel that way. Everyone's problems are the most important problems to them, and we want them to know that we believe in them and support them and want to help them get where they need to go. Because those salesmen often form their own companies, and they remember that too. They remember the attorney who didn't bill them, who just gave them good advice, who didn't take the case when he shouldn't have taken the case. And when they start their own company, usually we're the first people they call. So we like to do that. Depending on the situation, we can set up a consultation via Zoom, phone, whatever they need to do that. And it's been fun, really, really fun to hear what's going on. One thing I want to touch on real quick too is that you talked about how some of the legal issues that you're seeing in the industry, and you are like the guy who hears everything that's going on. What do you see happening in the industry? What kind of legal problems do you see coming up?
Oh man, we have 4 pillars in solar. We have manufacturers as one of the pillars. We have sales. They usually break off, do their own sales organization. We have installers that fulfill it, and then we have the banks. And it's crazy. Where I have seen less drama and less problems is actually the manufacturing side. It's these 3, the banks going out of business, not paying, or paying later than they should, which really affects the installers, which really affects the salespeople. I mean, it could start at the bank, it could start at the installers, or it could even start at the sales org. That's one crazy thing about our industry is the origin of the problems can be from 3 different pillars in our industry. And the possibilities in that are becoming quite infinite. Every day I'm hearing something new that's happening or new. And yes, 90% of them are pretty similar. We can pinpoint exactly what happened, how it happened, and why it's happening. But people get creative. Business owners get creative. New problems come up. But it's usually within one of those 3 pillars. Which means you have to have a vast knowledge in how to handle that tactfully, even, right?
Yeah, especially with funding. Funding has been the new one that usually banks are not greedy because they know there's a lot of regulations there. But boy, we have seen banks and lenders doing some really shady things in their documents, in their funding, delays of payments. And you're exactly right. The moment that funding stops, it trickles down. Then the owner can't pay. Or, maybe they do fund and then the owner is behind. And so they withhold the money and they try to think they can just bankrupt or do anything else without paying the reps, paying the installers. It's been insane seeing some of these things, post-COVID, where people are really playing very loose and fast. And we've seen a lot more actual pre-litigation and actual litigation. Whereas before, you wouldn't see those things because banks would just pay or business owners frequently would just pay. Usually you saw it on the lower levels. So I see the same thing in regulations. That's been one thing, like NEM 3. And I've found that, it's nice having a law firm that understands some of these things so that they can provide, some advice or guidance or compliance. Do you see additional regulations coming out in your industry? Things that might like need an
It is
attorney to.
inevitable.
You think so?
It's inevitable. Yeah, it's. I was talking to my buddy Hasem yesterday, and he put it better. Everyone knows regulations coming, but he said realtors have to hang their hat at a, what do they call that? A broker. They have
Broker.
to put like Caldwell Banker or something. They have to hang their hat there. Car salesmen, they have to choose a dealership. And pretty much every high-end sales profession that we can think of has to be part of an organization to do it. In solar, you don't have to do that. As a sales org, you could actually sign up with 9 different installers, and this is where a lot of the problem comes from, because we'll shop these installers. This installer won't pay us. We'll force this one to do a better deal. This rep wants to leave unless we get a lower red line, so we push him down, which creates problems on the back end for the installer who doesn't pay the next sales org. I mean, the problem, that's just one of the problems that I know regulations coming, because I can see if we don't subscribe ourselves to one installer, I can see how that is actually creating such a massive and destructive ripple effect through our whole industry. And that's just one topic. There's probably 80 topics that we can discuss as to why regulation comes in. For example, in order to do a loan, a realtor has to go through a series of tests and exams and has to pass it in order to be able to do a loan. We can go hire a Starbucks barista tomorrow, and she could write a $200,000 loan the next day. That's insane, right? They don't understand how the tax credit works fully. They don't even understand how solar works fully. Regulation is coming. It is absolutely inevitable. And we even have groups in our industry right now trying to form associations so that when regulation does come, they don't overshoot. They usually go to these associations first if they're well established, then they ask and glean from them what is acceptable or what's not or what's tolerable, and they start to form their policy after those associations. Those associations themselves also are going to need legal guidance.
Yeah. No, that is probably the most inevitable thing I think that will happen with solar, both because of the amount of money that's involved and also with the amount now of politics getting involved. A lot of these things trickle down from like the Attorney General's office. Like someone files a complaint with the AG and then it trickles. And then someone says, wait a second, this is a good opportunity to take a stand on something because, the little old lady got taken advantage of. So that's a great headline. And then they turn that into something, and then there's regulations in it and politicians get involved. And you're exactly right. Without having a voice in that environment that's coming in saying, well, wait a second, that's a bad apple. And any industry is going to have a bad apple or two or 20. So having those things, a lot. So having those things.
50%.
Well, I think having a strong community voice and presence is crucial to the solar industry. And then also understanding, what do these regulations mean to me? Certain regulations are not going to apply to all businesses, especially when they're state specific. So, California regulations not necessarily going to impact Texas the same. Same thing with Texas's funding laws are not going to impact Arizona's the same. So, you need someone who can step in and review these things and provide that legal advice so that we just say, hey, here's where you want to be careful. Don't do this, or advise your reps of this. I do know that was one big thing that we had when California changed their employment test to the nicknamed ABC test of, what makes somebody an employee. Because as you know, if every sales rep's an employee, you got to provide benefits, W-2s, work comp insurance, a whole slew of benefits, and pay all the taxes and everything else. And the IRS laws usually would allow these sales reps, installers, things like that to qualify as independent contractors. But California's ABC test...
They qualify as a statutory non-employee is the phrase.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, thank you. So, and I'm dumbing it down a little bit, so thank you for undumbing it up. But the ABC test...
It was a new term I learned. I thought I would throw it out. Oh, it did? Wait, what?
The ABC test just broadens. It makes it so nearly anyone is an employee. And that's a distinction, right? Because if you get sued for employment issues in California, they're going to apply the ABC test. They're not going to look at the IRS factors of what makes an employee. And that ABC test is so broad that you have to change how you're doing business in California to really make sure that you're protected. And we advise our California clients specifically. We gave them kind of new ideas to, ensure that they're individuals that were independent contractors, that they clearly are, and employees are clearly employees. And we redid all their contracts to make sure that it was clear and precise. But that wouldn't apply in Utah. That wouldn't apply in Arizona or Texas. You have the IRS standard test usually. So I think that's why it matters that you have someone in solar who's an attorney who is involved and has clients in different states and has clients that are successful, that have, like yourself, who have seen the highs and lows of building a business and selling it in lawsuits and things like that.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you think somebody like shouldn't get an attorney, or that they shouldn't like at least consult with an attorney if they're in the solar industry?
Yeah, but it's really bad advice.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to hear it as your attorney, Jake.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say it. When you're first starting your business, if you don't have a lot of capital, you also have a lot less exposure to what I'm gonna call the elements of business. You have a lot less exposure. There's not really a lot of people looking to attack you at this point. And it's really bad advice, but I would say maybe at that point, it might be better to spend your money on building and softwares. But then if you get hit right then, you're going to come back and be like, Jake, why the hell did you tell me that? So, you don't know, but I would say, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say this, right? I think that you're right to a certain extent. So a new company where they've got this idea, maybe a couple guys branch off and want to start something. You're exactly right. Maybe like start putting things together and forming things and getting an idea of what you're doing to get there. But the sooner that you can hire on an attorney, and remember, like usually I think it's 3 to 5 years of initial business losses, and obviously legal is a tax write-off. I think initially the sooner you can get an attorney on, the better, because we start with that foundation. We do the employment contracts, the LLC formation, or the S Corp formation, or even C Corp. We set up the partnership agreement. So you and your buddy starting your company, and you're best friends now. Well, just wait till buddy decides to take all the cash and like take off to, Puerto Rico, and be like, well, I wanted to do that. And that's happened. So, real quick, I got a great story for you. So I'm representing a client presently that literally built this fairly large solar company. They're in multiple states. And this guy decided to take it over and cut out the partner. They had 50-50 ownership. They even have agreements for 50-50 ownership. But he decided to cut out the other partner, to change all of the bank accounts, to remove him from all of the company credit cards, and to make it so he was no longer receiving any form of salary or income, and just cut it out. And he could do that because there were some issues initially in the contract which allowed him control, because whoever drafted those agreements when they first formed the company, when they were best friends, they missed it. And so it gave him control over the financial accounts when they missed it. So he drained it. So the guy will probably eventually win when they go through the lawsuit. That the guy that got screwed, he will eventually win. But he's probably got 2 years of litigation where he's going to have to fund it from his own money, and the company's not going to pay him. And they're trying to get injunctions against the company and stop the draining. But, if you don't set it up strong at first, if you don't catch some of these loopholes that are created in some of these boiler documents on the internet, you can set yourself up for a world of hurt later when you're crying because, you've spent the last 15 years building a successful company, and now you got nothing and you're cut out of it. So that would be my only
I do want to talk about if you have another minute.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's do it. I got you.
I want to talk about you did draft an ironclad agreement for me, and you spent a lot of time doing it. I think you went back and forth with this particular company's attorney for about 4 months, battling my side and they battled their side. We finally came to an agreement. I signed the contract, they signed it, and then they breached. They broke the contract, and now they're set to owe me anywhere between $300,000 and $3 million, maybe even more. But it's so funny that there is an ironclad agreement, but it doesn't matter because they have more money and they just can choose to ignore certain emails, or you can say something to them like, back in October, we got an email saying this and this and this, so we know that you guys knew. And they'll say something, they'll wait like 3 weeks, and then they'll reply a simple email. Hey, do you mind shooting us over that email just for context? And then we'll reply immediately, here's the email, but you also have access to yourself. And then they'll wait 3 weeks again to be like, oh yeah, you're right. We'll look at it. 3 weeks later, and it's just insane. It's insane. I'm glad I have an attorney that can handle that so I can focus on building my business, because emotionally, if I had to deal with that every single time and keep checking my emails to see, $300,000 to $3 million is a lot of money for people.
Yep.
I'm one of them, right? But I can't emotionally just stop. I can't emotionally have that take my focus off of my finish line. And so I love having an attorney for that.
Well, I agree. It's like what I told you like earlier, and I said earlier on the podcast, you don't have to be right to sue someone. You don't have to be right to breach the contract. The same thing works in reverse. Now, that doesn't mean you won't get sued, but it's a process, right? And a lot of businesses know that. The legal advice that I give to businesses is different than the legal advice I give to individuals. So, for example, that business and that attorney, who I actually believe no longer works there, nor should he. But I think that they give advice to their clients of wait and see, and wait till you initiate the suit. Then when you initiate the suit, then you get into a highly expensive lawsuit potentially. Sometimes that's worth it, and it makes sense to do it. In this case, it's there's some other issues going on that we might want to wait and see and tail end off of somebody else's litigation. But still, and that's legal strategy, right? Sometimes you want the right legal strategy for the right case. So some people should file immediately.
That's awesome.
Other people should wait, let the other guy do all of the work in discovery. Then we get the discovery. We save you the legal costs on discovery. And then we file suit with the stuff that they procured for us. So that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so what you advise clients is different. Same thing with the attorney not responding for 3 weeks. It's legal strategy. And sometimes they want to do that, sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't know that as a business owner. That's not your practice area. I, as an attorney, am used to attorneys giving me the stalemate or the gray rock, just trying to ignore me because that's a strategy. So it doesn't bother me. I know we speak the same language. He's just speaking like the
gray rock.
Yeah, the gray rock. It's called gray rocking. I'm giving everybody.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is. Google it later.
I learned
clearly,
today.
Clearly, Jake, you have dated different women than I have. So when you Google gray rocking later, you'll see it's a tactic that you use with people that are crazy, or people that
Women think I'm crazy.
No. I'm saying that I think I've dated some people that
you think I'm crazy.
I think I've dated some people that I had to learn to communicate better. But the same thing's true in business, right? So you have to learn how to communicate in ways and speak their language where they will resonate and they'll understand it. So, we might respond right away. We might not. If, for example, when they asked us, are you going to be filing a lawsuit? We said, we'll let you know. And then we let it sit so that they have to now position certain funds for future litigation. And we make them sit on it. And then they're not getting interest on funds that they've positioned. So tactics like that are different strategies that, we might advise for a client and things like that. But, well, Jake, I sincerely appreciate your time. I feel like, besides the fact that you're, one of my absolute best friends, I really respect what you've done in this industry. And I mean that sincerely, not just because you pay me as your attorney. I really respect who you are and what you do.
I know you do.
Yeah. And look, we're thankful for your endorsement. We've really loved representing, Helio Gold, SolarCon, the Solar Academy, and all of the other, side businesses, the upcoming businesses. We're really excited for your growth, and for Jake Hess, I don't know what version we're on, like 5.0, 6.0. It's always evolving.
Thank you.
Anything else that you
I
want
very
to?
much appreciate it.
Anything else you want to tell our listeners before we sign off?
No, I mean, anyone out there that is hearing this and has access to me, feel free to reach out to me. I'll connect you with John. I'll give you honest feedback. I don't get anything from referring him, so I have no agenda. But he's genuinely helped me throughout all of the years that I've been doing this, and it translates to me being able to have the lifestyle I want, and being able to do things with my family that I want to. That's what it translates to. That's the important stuff, and I'm very thankful for that.
Well, thank you, Jake. And for those that have any questions, also, they're welcome to go to our website, lawyersforsolar.com. You can also go to solarlegal.com with a hyphen in between. That way you don't go to some other gentleman's website in Arizona who does not practice in the solar industry. But lawyerforsolar.com. You can also email me at john@lawyersforsolar.com. Thanks so much for your time, Jake, and looking forward to your continued success.